Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. And this is On from the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry by Albert G. Mackey. Symbol of the Sun God. On. This is a significant word in Royal Arch Masonry and has been generally explained as being the name by which Jehovah was worshipped among the Egyptians. As this has been denied and the word asserted to be only the name of a city in Egypt, it is proper that some inquiry should be made into the authorities on the subject. The first mention of On in the Bible is in the history of Joseph, to whom Pharaoh gave to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. The city of On was in Lower Egypt, between the Nile and the Red Sea, and adorned, says Philipson, by a gorgeous temple of the sun in which a numerous priesthood officiated. The investigations of modern Egyptologists have shown that this is an error. On was the name of a city where the sun god was worshipped, but On was not the name of that god. Champollion, in his Dictionnaire Egyptien, gives the phonetic characters with the figurative symbols of a serpent and disc and a seated figure as the name of the sun god. Now, of these two characters, the upper one has the power of R and the lower of A, and hence the name of the god is Ra. This is the concurrent testimony of Bunsen, Lepsius, Glidden, and all later authorities. But although On was really the name of a city, the founders of the Royal Arch had, with the lights then before them, assumed that it was the name of a god, and had so incorporated it with their system. With better light than theirs, we can no longer accept their definition, yet the word may still be retained as a symbol of the Egyptian god. We know not who has power to reject it, and if scholars preserve, outside of the symbolism, the true interpretation, no harm will be done. It is not the only significant word in Freemasonry whose old and received meaning has been shown to be incorrect and sometimes even absurd. And yet the word is still retained as the expression of an old idea. Wilkinson says of it, "This city was in all ages a sort of ecclesiastical metropolis of Lower Egypt, the prime seat of the sacred mysteries and higher science of the country, and was as such the fountain from which the Greek philosophers and historians were allowed to draw the scanty information which they have transmitted to us." The sun, which was there worshipped, was in the Egyptian, as in other idolatrous systems, one of the chief deities. In another place in the Bible, Jeremiah 43:13, the city of On is called Beth-Shemesh, the city of the sun, and the Greeks called it Heliopolis, which had precisely the same meaning. Now, what was actually the signification of the word On? In the language of the hieroglyphics, the sun, it is true, is called Ra, but St. Cyril, who, as Bishop of Alexandria, should have known something of this subject, says that On signified among the Egyptians the sun, as seen here, referring to the expressions by Dr. Mackey. This is a significant word in Royal Arch Masonry and has generally been explained as being the name by which Jehovah was worshipped among the Egyptians. But although On was really the name of a city, the founders of the Royal Arch had, with the lights then before them, assumed that it was the name of a god and had so incorporated it with their system. Brother David E.W. Williamson writes as follows, "This, it seems to me, gives a wrong impression of the Royal Arch use of the word. On is certainly one of the names of the deity of Israel, and it will be found by reference to the Septuagint that is seen here, which the authorized version renders I am that I am, is actually translated into Greek as seen here, I am the being. For several centuries in the earlier part of the Christian era, the Septuagint was considered to be coordinate with, if not superior to, the Hebrew text as authority, and by the vast number of worshippers under the Orthodox Rite, the Greek version is and always has been regarded with the same veneration as English-speaking people regard the authorized version. To these worshippers, therefore, On is one of the names of the Almighty. The effect of the word seen here, if I may make the suggestion, merely intensifies the meaning of the being, so that as nearly as we can translate the sense into English, the original biblical expression would be, I am, there you see, I am. If you have Westcott and Hort handy and will refer to Revelations 1:4, you will see that the phrase which the authorized version renders grace be unto you and peace from him which is, and which was, and which is to come, is literally from the being and the was and the coming, thus seen here, from the On. And see especially verse 8 in the same chapter, thus seen here, etc. It seems to me that when we say supreme being referring to the Almighty, we are exactly expressing the word that meant thus seen here to the Yahwist redactor of the Pentateuch, and on to the Septuagint translators, as well as to the Hebrew Christian who wrote the Apocalypse. Godfrey Higgins, Celtic Druids, page 171, quotes an Irish commentator as showing that the name Ein or On was the name of a triad of gods in the Irish language. All etymologists, Higgins continues, have supposed the word On to mean the sun, but how the name arose has not before been explained. In another work, Anacalypsis, Volume 1, page 109, Higgins makes the following important remarks. Various definitions are given of the word On, but they are all unsatisfactory. It is written in the Old Testament in two ways, thus and thus. It is usually rendered in English by the word on. This word is supposed to mean the sun, and the Greeks translated it by the word thus or sul, but I think it only stood for the sun as the emblem of the procreative power of nature. Bryan says, Mythological Antiquity, Volume 1, page 19, when speaking of this word, On, Eon or Aion was another title of the sun among the Ammonians, the 70, where the word occurs in the scriptures, interpret it the sun and call the city of On, Heliopolis, and the Coptic Pentateuch renders the city On by the city of the sun. Plato in his Timaeus says, Tell me of the god On, which is and never knew beginning. And although Plato may have been here thinking of the Greek word which means being, it is not improbable that he may have referred to the god worshipped at On or Heliopolis, as it was thence that the Greeks derived so much of their learning. It would be vain to attempt to make an analogy between the Hindu sacred word Aum and the Egyptian On. The fact that the M in the former word is the initial of some secret word renders the conversion of it into an impossible, because it would thereby lose its signification. The old Freemasons, misled by the authority of St. Cyril and by the translation of the name of the city into City of the Sun by the Hebrews and the Greeks, very naturally supposed that On was the Egyptian sun god, their supreme deity, as the sun always was, wherever he was worshipped. Hence they appropriated that name as a sacred word explanatory of the Jewish tetragrammaton. Brother Williamson points out here that as to the Egyptian city of that name, the Egyptian name was used by the Jews. See Brown Driver Briggs' lexicon. The Greeks knew it as Heliopolis and could not have mistaken the city for a god. See also Aum and Om. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe and comment, and if you can please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.